Good morning, everyone. We're going to give you a few more minutes. We have people entering into the room and want to make sure they have a chance to access the portal so that they can join us. Okay, well, good morning and welcome to the Office of Illinois Works 2025 Grantee Manual Session 3. Thank you for joining us today. The 2025 Grantee Manual is comprised of 14 sections, which we will cover in 3 webinars. This is the third and last of the 3 webinars. The target audience for this program are individuals accountable for data entry, data management, pre-apprenticeship program completion tracking, transition support, follow-up services, or any task related to maintaining contact with participants after graduating from your program. Job titles may include, but not be limited to, program administrators, program managers, program coordinators, training coordinators, transition coordinators, data entry coordinators, anyone accountable for curriculum content, and anyone accountable for program reporting. This training is the third and final webinar of this 3-part series that reviews each section of the 2025 Grantee Manual to ensure grantees can effectively implement their pre-apprenticeship program. In sessions 1 and 2, we covered sections 1 through 8 of the 2025 Grantee Manual. This webinar is a continuation of the series and will cover the remaining 6 sections. My name is Dr. Carlita Alston. I am the instructional designer and professional coach for Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program, and I'm happy to be here with you today. I would also like to introduce the other presenters that are here today. Dan, can you please say hello to your audience?
Good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Dan Martinez. I am a financial grant manager with the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program. I'm glad to have you all here today.
Thank you, Dan. And Monica, can you please introduce yourself?
I'm happy to, Carlita. Good morning, everyone. My name is Monica Pruitt, and I am one of the programmatic grant managers for Illinois Works. Welcome.
Thank you, Monica. In his absence, I'd like to introduce our Deputy Director of Illinois Works, Dr. Norman Ruano. Also joining us today is the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Team. Our virtual producer for today is Dr. Jeff Doolittle. Dr. Doolittle, can you please introduce yourself?
Good morning, everyone. Good to be with you.
Thank you. And supporting our virtual production is Dr. Gia Suggs. Please say hello.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Suggs. And for monitoring our chat today and keeping our time is Dr. Fumi Apantaku. Can you please introduce yourself?
Good morning. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Dr. Fumi. And finally, our chat links will be offered through Miss Olivia Meisenbach. Can you please introduce yourself?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending, and I look forward to speaking with you all today.
Thank you, Olivia. So there are also teams accountable for the Apprenticeship Initiative and a team accountable for the Bid Credit Program, as well as one accountable for Career Services. Illinois Works was created as a result of Governor Pritzker's historic $45 billion capital plan and his commitment to expanding equity in the Illinois construction workforce. As an Illinois Works grantee, you are now a part of this exciting new initiative that will create opportunities for Illinois residents, businesses, communities, and families. Illinois Works consists of 3 key programs, the first being the Apprenticeship Initiative. The Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program is the second program that was implemented, and the Bid Credit Program launched last year. This training is the third of a 3-part series that reviews each section of the 2025 Grantee Manual to ensure grantees can effectively implement their Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program. Over the next 3 hours, we will cover the next 6 sections of the 2025 Grantee Manual. If you have not yet accessed your Grantee Manual, the link is now being provided for you in the chat, and I'm afraid that that may not be the case today. Webinar 3 will cover the following sections of the 2025 Grantee Manual. Section 9, which is Professional Development and Technical Assistance. Section 10, Grantees Data Management. Section 11, Finances, Records, and Reports. Section 12, Using Data for Program Management and Improvement. Section 13, Programmatic Monitoring. And Section 14, Audit Requirements. So here are our objectives for today. By the end of this training, you will be able to describe the strategic role of professional development and technical assistance to support program success, adhere to the guidelines of their program's track, incorporate the Illinois Works data management process into their program processes, enter data from each data category into IWRS, utilize record keeping, best practices, maintain participant files, access data standard reports, comply with the Illinois Works payment model guidelines, effectively use data to support program management, incorporate a continuous program improvement model, adhere to the Illinois Works programmatic monitoring, and comply with appropriate audit requirements. Please note that this session is being recorded and will be made available for review at the Illinois Works Partner Guide. The link to the Illinois Works Partner Guide is now being provided for you in the chat. Any questions before we proceed to the next section? And if so, please feel free to unmute your line or post your question in the chat. Okay, so we'll move on to
I have a
Module
question,
2.
I'm sorry. Someone asked if we can send the link to this training? Tammy asked if we can send a link to the training.
Can someone provide a link to the training for Tammy, please? Tammy Yarbrough from African American Christian Foundation. Thank you. Are there any other questions in the chat? So we'll now go into how to use WebEx and Mentimeter to fully participate. And by the end of this section, you'll be able to identify your fellow participants, use the WebEx features and functions to fully participate in the training, and identify what you hope to learn. So with Mentimeter, you will notice on the right side of your screen, there is a blue link that has the word Continue button. You'll see on the right side to press that Continue button. And once you press the Continue, Mentimeter app will show in the Mentimeter viewer, multimedia viewer panel. The link to Mentimeter website is also being provided in the chat. This will allow you to fully participate during this training, as well as provide us with feedback at the end of the training. So we'll give everyone a few minutes to get into Mentimeter. You may also scan the QR code that is listed in front of you on a mobile device to allow you into Mentimeter as well. Okay, so using Mentimeter, please provide the following information: your name, organization or agency, your role, geographic location, and if you attended session 1, please put 1 asterisk next to your name. If you attended both sessions 1 and 2, please add 2 asterisks next to your name. Thank you, Fumi, for testing that. Hi, I don't know who's saying it, but hello. Some of you feel free to share your name, your organization, and where you're located. We have Kyle from Rincon Family Services. Thank you, Kyle. Isaiah from Quad County Urban League. And Isaiah has two asterisk next to his name, so that shows he's been in all the events so far. Dawn from Girls Light Our Way. Nadia from CAPS. Jasmine from the Center of Innovation. We have Lita, Center of Innovation. Bianca, Workforce and Community Programs. Jasmine, I think I said Jasmine, and Amy from the Climate Economy Education, Inc. Hannah from Metropolitan North. Hi, everyone. Tammy. Good morning, Tammy. Simon Summers from Chicagoland Prison Center, Prison Outreach. Asia from Rincon Family Services. We have Carmen from Prison Outreach. Heather from, I think this is a DC. Hey, Heather. We have Deanna from Center of Innovation. Are there any others?
I see some names on the chart. Antonio Lipscomb from President's Next Level Academies. I also see he says it's from Peoria. I also see Angelo from Higher 360. And I see D'Angelo Talbot, Assistant Manager of Workforce Development.
Thank you, Fumi. And we also have Alexander from Southwestern Illinois College, Suzette from ABC Illinois Workforce, Latanya from CAPS. Are there any others listed? Joseph from AACF, Roxana with GLOW. Thank you all for participating and welcome to this webinar. So, by a show of hands, if you could use the hand raise button, how many of you have already participated in these sessions? Okay, I won't be able to determine from here. But moving forward, we will continue with our WebEx tutorial. In order for you to be fully engaged, let us review some basic WebEx system functions. As you proceed, I want you to make sure that you are engaging along with me. So the first thing you might notice is your mute and unmute button. Then you'll see your start video for your own camera, the raise hand, your emojis, the chat, and then there's a group button, but we won't use the group button today. To help facilitate the best experience, please keep your line muted to help manage potential interruptions during the training. The lines can be unmuted during question and answer sessions or group discussions. If you have a comment or a question, please share it in the chat or unmute yourself during the question and answer sessions at the end of each training section. There will be definitive points during the training that will be inviting you to ask questions, and we will try to respond to as many of your comments and questions as possible within our allotted time. So now let's use Mentimeter. Please answer the following question. Is there anything in particular you are hoping we covered today? Is there anything in particular you're hoping we cover today? Data entry. That's a really big one. Anything else? Anyone else? We have about 35 participants. Anything else? Reports, receiving the grant manual, Let's see, receiving the grantee manual, reports expected manual date. Performance tracking. Let's see, we have more of receiving the manual, requirements for reimbursement, curriculum. Anything else? Okay. All right. Thank you so much for joining in that question. If you have further comments, feedback, or questions after this training, you can email us. The email address is now available in the chat. So before we move on to the next section, are there any questions regarding what you're expected to learn today? If not, we'll move on to our third module, Professional Development and Technical Assistance. In this section, by the end of section 9, you'll be able to identify the professional development opportunities provided by the Office of Illinois Works, reference professional development expectations for grantees, save the dates for the upcoming professional development sessions, and ensure internal professional development offerings are responsive to linguistic cultural needs. So let us take a look at Section 9, Professional Development Technical Assistance of the 2025 Grantee Manual. Grantees must plan to participate in professional development and technical assistance. You may be familiar with the DCEO definition of the term technical assistance, or TA, for all professional development support. Illinois Works uses the context presented here during this session. Professional development is the culmination of tools, techniques, and strategies that impact the knowledge, skills, behavior, and attitudes of grantees to successfully implement an Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program, comply with its policies and procedures, and effectively utilize its technical applications. PD includes structured sessions in person or via WebEx that seeks to prevent or mitigate future challenges. Technical assistance, which is TA, is one-on-one or small group intervention that aids in course correction. It is the responsibility of each grantee to comply with Illinois Works professional development requirements. In addition, grantees must budget for supplemental development for instructors and program staff as appropriate. To help ensure success, Illinois Works provides a robust catalog of professional development and technical assistance offerings, webinar sessions, program coaching, Toolbox Tuesdays, and this happens on the second Tuesday of each month, excluding holiday weeks. Illinois Works will host an optional one-on-one 1-hour session open to all grantee staff members. The next professional development is regional meetings. Now, this is in-person full-day professional development gathering. It's for grantee staff members and administrators. They promote networking among grantees and provide updates on Illinois Works and IWRS. Locations and scheduling details will be available on the Illinois Works Partner Guide, but it typically takes place in the spring. Another professional development is technical assistance. Then we have communities of practice. Communities of practice include, but are not limited to, administrators, transition service coordinators, wraparound service coordinators, trainers and instructors, and data entry coordinators. And communities of practice may include required monthly meetings and other technical assistance. And then finally, we have the annual conference. Regional meeting and the Illinois Works Annual Conference offer benefits associated with the activities that support grantee compliance with program expectations. This conference is typically scheduled in the fall. So to learn more about these offerings and the onboarding sessions, see Table 19, Table 20, and Table 21 in the 2025 Grantee Manual. The Illinois Works Partner Guide provides information regarding program dates, times, and registration. A link for the partner guide is now being provided for you in the chat. Professional development stipends for mandatory in-person instructor training are permissible, provided that they are reasonable in relation to the time spent and do not exceed the instructor's regular pay. For instance, the stipend for a full-day instructor professional development session should not exceed $400, while a half-day session should not exceed $200. And the link to the Illinois Works Partner Guide should be now in your chat. Grantees are required to ensure appropriate staff participate in each of the above professional development opportunities, as well as ensure there are appropriate budget line items to support this participation. For example, the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Annual Conference attendance. Webinars are each designed to provide grantees with information on how to navigate the Illinois Works reporting system, which we call IWRS, utilize the Illinois Works Grantee Manual, and implement critical program requirements such as obtaining certifications for pre-apprenticeship instructors, providing effective transition services, and utilizing data to create a program improvement plan, among others. The webinar schedule is subject to change. The date and time of current offerings are available on the Illinois Works Partner Guide. Webinars are a requirement, no exceptions, for all grantees irrespective of their track assignment. Now we will start with the Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship webinars. The webinars are professional development opportunities conducted over the internet. Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program webinar sessions may include, but not be limited to, training, informational, or conference sessions. And the webinar sessions will be recorded and made available through the Illinois Works Partner Guide unless otherwise noted. And you can view the current webinar schedule, register for a session, or access the recordings at the Illinois Works Partner Guide. Again, the link is being provided in the chat. Next, we'll talk about the communities of practice. A community of practice is a group of individuals who share a common interest, profession, or passion and come together to learn from one another, collaborate, and develop their knowledge and expertise in a specific domain. Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program leverages a virtual community of practice for professional groups, including but not limited to administrators, transition service coordinators, wraparound service coordinators, trainers and instructors, and data entry coordinators. The Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program Community of Practice utilizes the Absorb Learning Management System platform, where subject matter experts from Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program and grantees can share information, network, problem solve, and continuously learn and improve programming in their respective areas. Grantee staff are required to participate in their assigned virtual community of practice platform and virtual community meetings. Attendance and engagement in the community of practice meetings virtual community of practice platform is tracked and reported as a part of the Professional Development Monthly Required Attendance Report. Program coaching. Program coaching is a tailored engagement between a professional program coach and a grantee. This opportunity allows grantees to receive individually tailored support with the goal of mitigating or preventing program challenges and proactively supporting program success. Coaches are not programmatic staff and cannot assist grantees with program delivery. The goal of program coaching is to provide grantees with customized support in the following domains. The first one is instructional certification. The primary focus of the instructional certification coaching is to ensure grantees have certified instructors on or before the start of the instruction in each certification area, have requirements in place related to the curriculum they have chosen, and that grantees use and follow the curriculum policies, procedures, and technologies. Number 2, pre-apprenticeship life cycle program coaching. The primary focus of the program coaching is to guide and support Illinois Work grantees through strategically planning a planned and carefully implemented program that will specifically address the needs of the grantee's target population. And then third, business development. The Illinois Works, the primary focus of the business coaching is to provide real-time solution-oriented support in specific areas of organizational development. The Illinois Works coaching domains address approximately 30 coaching needs. If you would like more information about the domains, you can review Table 22 on coaching domains in your grantee manual. So required coaching. Program coaching is required by the Office of Illinois Works for Track 2 and Track 3 grantees and provides an opt-in option for Track 1 grantees. Coaches are not programmatic staff. They are consultants instead and do not assist grantees with program delivery. Program coaching is tailored to provide proactive and preventative one-on-one support driven by a needs analysis and coaching planning. Approximately 75% of coaching support is proactive and 25% reactive. The Illinois Works program coach partners with individual grantees to help ensure program success in alignment with their Illinois Works grant expectations. Illinois Works grantees are contractually required to comply with coaching expectations. Additional detailed guidance regarding the Illinois Works program coaching is available in the grantee manual. Track designations. Grantees will be assessed for program readiness. Grantee track designations will be the result of a comprehensive needs analysis process that considers the available information resulting from the NOFO and contracting process. Renewal grantees will have the additional benefit of their previous year's performance outcomes to help inform their track designation. The needs analysis produces red flags, which are warning signals that indicate a potential performance concern. Need analysis documents and information sources may include, but not be limited to, internal control questionnaire, which is the ICQ, DCEO programmatic risk assessment, NOFO reviews, application, evaluation scoring sheets and notes, Illinois Work Coaching Needs Assessment Questionnaire, per the direction of the Illinois Works Deputy Director, monthly compliance reports for renewal grantees only, and prior year's performance outcomes for renewal grantees only. In addition, Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program considers program development, longevity, capacity, and experience relevant to construction and the building trades. Illinois Works retains the right to update or change the above criteria for track designations as it is at its discretion. Once the information from each of the data sources has been analyzed, the track designation for the grantee is established, either a Track 1, Track 2, or Track 3. You can find more information on track designations in Table 23 of the Grantee Manual. At the end of the needs analysis process, grantees will be identified as either Track 1 and receive recommendations for their professional development plan, or Tracks 2 or 3 and receive a coaching plan accompanied with their track designation. Track 1 grantees will receive an internal professional development plan. Track 2 and 3 accelerator program grantees will receive a coaching plan and will be required to attend coaching. More information regarding the expectations of each track designation is available in Table 23, called Track Description. There is some fluidity with regards to the track's designation. Though most tracks will remain static, it is possible for a grantee to experience a change in their track based on their program performance. Additional detailed guidance regarding the Illinois Works program coaching is available in the Grantee Manual. For more information about the internal professional development plan, see Template 20, Sample Internal Development Plan, which is also in the appendix of the 2025 Grantee Manual. Track 1 designation. Though there are many exceptions, Track 1 grantees are typically experienced at delivering construction and or building trades pre-apprenticeship programs with a robust staffing infrastructure, including strong formal partnerships or contractor-vendor relationships. Track 2. Though there may be exceptions, Track 2 grantees are typically new to delivering construction and or building trades pre-apprenticeship programs or do not have a robust staffing infrastructure to effectively respond to the Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program expectations. Track 3. Unlike the other two tracks, Track 3 accelerator program grantees are generally, not always, identified during the NOPO process. These grantees are contractually required to participate in the program coaching for a minimum of 10 and up to 20 hours per month. If additional coaching is required, a determination will be at the discretion of the Illinois Works Deputy Director. The Office of Illinois Works will host a 2025 Illinois Works Annual Conference this fall of 2025. A conference is an event that provides an opportunity for industry subject matter experts and program practitioners, Illinois Works grantees, to share and exchange ideas, information, experiences, new technologies, and theories, among others, with program attendees to advance a profession or purpose. The target audience for this event are Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program instructors, staff, and administrators, and their program partners. The delivery modality, on the ground or virtually, will depend on several variables. It is expected that the conference this year will be face-to-face. Several of the grantees will demonstrate superior execution in one or more of the phases in the pre-apprenticeship life cycle. The conference will be an opportunity for them to share their best practices to help support overall program success. Technical assistance is the process of providing targeted assistance to grantees with the goal of program performance improvement. While the aim of program coaching is prevention and mitigation, technical assistance aids with course correction. To help ensure programs are aligned with Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program requirements and guidance, grantees will receive one-on-one intervention, corrective action, and compliance support. Technical assistance helps grantees meet critical milestones for the successful implementation of their pre-apprenticeship program. Grantee compliance with TA is required. It is important to clearly differentiate between program coaching and technical assistance. Program coaching is prevention and mitigation, while technical assistance aids with course correction. Program coaching is scheduled regularly, while grantees will be alerted when technical assistance is necessary. Program coaching is primarily proactive, while technical assistance is reactive. And then finally, program coaching is delivered by independent consultants, and technical assistance is delivered by Illinois Works grant managers or other Illinois Works staff. You can find more information regarding the difference between program coaching and technical assistance in Exhibit 12 of your grantee manual. Illinois Works understands its program requirements are part of a new model for many grantees. As a result, it has implemented a robust professional development agenda that includes webinars, coaching, technical assistance, and conferences. Grantees know their instructional and program staff. As a result, they should leverage their institutional knowledge to develop an internal professional development plan for the specific needs of their program instructors and staff. Based on your needs analysis results, Track 1 grantees will receive recommendations regarding specific focus areas that should be incorporated in their internal professional development plan. For more information about the Track 1 internal professional development plan recommendations, see Program Coaching Plan versus Internal Professional Development Plan in the Grantee Manual. An internal professional development plan outlines the development requirements for all staff. At a minimum, it includes, but is not limited to, title and the role expectations, professional development, events, and approved staff. Template 20, Sample Internal Professional Development Plan, is available in the appendix of the Grantee Manual or on the Illinois Works Partner Guide resource page. Please use it to customize it for your purposes in case you do not already have your own plan. So now let's go to use Mentimeter. Using Mentimeter, please answer the following question. What type of professional development opportunities have you planned or are you planning for your staff? And for the renewal grantees, this might be an easier question for you to answer since you've had some time to utilize the services for Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship and understand the needs that may still exist for your staff. So what types of professional development opportunities have you been thinking about or planning for this new year? Okay, attend Illinois Work Annual Conference, weekly meetings, supervision. We have certifications, weekly staff meetings. I like that one. The weekly staff meetings is always helpful in terms of maintaining good communication between your staff. Are there any others? Okay, what do we have? Attend the conference, trauma-informed training. Okay, great. All right, looks like we have 5 people responding. Any other respondents? Attend the conference. Well, there's a lot of information that we get when we have our regional meetings and our annual conferences. So that does provide good professional development. Outreach, curriculum. Very good, very good. Monthly data pool meetings. Excellent. All right, thank you so much for participating. If there are any others, we'll move on to the next part of our question. So continuing education, for example, might be one of the things we could add to that list. Professional development organization, training skills, mentorship, sponsorship. Those are all good things that can come out of planning for developing our staff. Moving on to linguistics and cultural skills. Successful implementation of the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program integrates diversity, inclusion, belonging, and equity, or we call this DIBE, with the goal of fostering an environment that allows individuals to feel safe, participate fully, develop professionally, and reach their fullest potential. Embedded in DIBE are linguistic and cultural skills, which should be included in your internal professional development plan. Linguistic and cultural skills are not just about translating materials or having bilingual outreach and recruitment staff. It is the ability to understand the nuances of language and the cultural implications of potential participants throughout the pre-apprenticeship lifecycle. Linguistic and cultural skills require program staff or instructors to: Step 1, refrain from judgment. Step 2, clarify understanding. And Step 3, seek first to understand. There is additional information regarding program expectations found in your grantee manual. And here's our last Mentimeter question for this section. Using Mentimeter, what are you doing to prepare your staff to respond to linguistic and cultural differences? What are you doing to prepare your staff to respond to linguistic and cultural differences? And as I mentioned before, it's not a matter of just presenting someone who can speak a different language. It's understanding the culture behind the language. And what do you do to make sure that you're incorporating that into your program? Any responses? Hire diverse staff. Okay, thank you. Any other responses? All right. It looks like we had one response. Any other responses before we move on? All right, thank you so much. Are there any questions before we progress to the next section?
There are no questions in the chat.
Thank you so much, Fumi. And now I will turn it over to Mr. Dan Martinez.
Hi, thank you very much, Carlita. All right, this next this part of our discussion, we are going to be reviewing Section 10 of the Grantee Manual, and that is data management. So this section and then the next section, which we'll cover, Section 11, kind of go hand in hand because these relate directly to essentially your reporting and your performance reporting and how that all is part of your grant and the funding of your grant. So very important stuff, throughout this presentation today. So in the Section 10 of the Grantee Manual, we are going to be ensuring that you can articulate the first 3 steps of the data management process, collect relevant data for each stage of the pre-apprenticeship life cycle, identify your data entry staff, implement quality control measures to ensure data integrity, and complete the annual Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program closeout process. So, as I mentioned, this will be Section 10 of the Grantee Manual. And I know I saw in the word cloud earlier, everyone's excited to get that. We are certainly looking forward to providing it to you. Again, the 2024 Grantee Manual is still available on our partner guide. And as soon as we have that 2025 one, it will be posted. And rest assured, we will not just post it and not say anything. You will all receive an email notifying you that the Grantee Manual is available. So I know we've received lots of questions about it. We will definitely let you know. So let's dive into this Section 10 of the data management. Why is data important? So the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program strategically uses data in a lot of different ways. The data are the individual pieces of facts which, when analyzed, can provide our office and your organization with valuable information. It supports the program outcomes. It supports your performance and financial evaluations. The continuous program improvement for each program, hopefully leading to renewal year after year of your organization participating in the program. And with our office's longitudinal study, which, as we have explained to you in the past, really is designed to track the program participants for up to a decade after their participation in the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program. So it's really crucial that we have proper data to support those things. And then the information is the knowledge that can be used to understand the program outcomes, uncover key insights, patterns, and really contribute to informed decision making, right? Because that's the ultimate goal of all this data. It's not just data collection for data collection's sake. We want to make better decisions based on that. So the effective use of this data begins with a strategic 4-step data management process. So using Mentimeter, share with me some thoughts on how your program uses data. And maybe just your organization. Obviously, a lot of you, WebEx was intended for new organizations or new individuals to the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program. So you might not have developed it yet, but maybe just let us know how you're planning to use it. Maybe how you've used data in the past in other programs that you think might be relevant here. So share with us, if you can, your understanding of how your program uses data. Tracking progress, understanding that data tells a story, being data-driven allows you to work on those improvements, provide success stories, figure out your grant funding, absolutely. I want to go back to that success stories. That's crucial for every organization. I know most nonprofits hold, either annual galas or fundraising events, or just share annual newsletters or quarterly newsletters with a lot of their community. We're no different. We are constantly asked by the Illinois, Department of Labor or the Federal Department of Labor for success stories, understanding how our program operates. So a lot of great things here, other things, improvement, strategic plan, generating community data, that for sure, right? Everyone's developing a marketing plan. You want to use that data to make sure that you're providing the best marketing, refining what you're doing, measuring interest, improve the training experience. Absolutely. When we talk about the pre-apprenticeship program life cycle, you can think about all of the data informing each one of those pieces of the life cycle. So thank you all very much for your responses. Keep Mentimeter open. We're going to come back to it in just a slide or two. But let's go ahead and move on to continue to talk about data management. Really understanding that this is the administrative process of acquiring the data, validating the data, processing the data. And obviously most data for our program, for the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program, will be housed in IWRS, which is the Illinois Works Reporting System. The Office of Illinois Works utilizes a four-step data management process that includes data collection, then data entry, quality control, and accurate reporting. Although accurate reporting is kind of listed as the final step in this data management process, in many ways it's the culmination of the other three components, right? Data collection, data entry, and quality control all go into accurate reporting. And each data point, from grantee data, participant data, maybe financial data, as it's entered into IWRS in a timely and accurately basis, will allow for live tracking, real-time tracking of not only participant progress, but your program's progress and outcomes. So extremely important there. So that data collection really needs to be a system process for accurately collecting data for the purpose of analysis to gain insights, right? So it needs to be a process. And the data entry coordinator is accountable for that overall process and data entry into IWRS. So the data entry coordinator can select additional staff, right? Or your program may select additional staff, data entry specialists that actually enter the data into IWRS. It is important that these staff members have the appropriate skill set for data entry. I think at an earlier presentation, Norman mentioned, they have to have the computer skills to be able to enter data, and they must be properly trained by our office. That includes, possibly watching the recorded training videos that we have provided. Now that you have gone through these live, right, as you add additional staff, if they come in mid-year, they may need to go through that process. We may need other things, or even a live technical assistance session with your grant manager. And so, but again, although you may have several different staff members that are responsible for entering data into specific, areas of IWRS, the data entry coordinator is the person that will be accountable overall for ensuring the accurate and timely data into IWRS. So we're going to just kind of go with a yes or not yet response here. So has your program identified the data entry coordinator position, or staff member? So again, you can go with yes, we have one, or no, we do not have a data entry coordinator yet. So I think it's kind of a true or false. I guess we probably should have added a third one saying, yes, it's me, right? Because one of the target audiences for this program was the data entry coordinator for each organization. So very good to see. Again, we understand some of your programs are just getting started and aren't going to be enrolling participants anytime soon. So there's still time to get that data entry coordinator position filled. But that looks great. Thank you all for participating. Please keep up the good work. Again, we have more information. You can do a deeper dive in the grantee manual that provides a description under staff roles. Section 3 of the grantee manual is all about staff roles, partner relationships, and other resources. So the categories of data that Illinois Works utilizes falls into one of three categories. So the grantee data includes data regarding your engagement in the development, design, and implementation of the pre-apprenticeship program. So that can be things like the number of cohorts that you're running, your goals for the year, obviously the dates. A lot of that falls into the work plan, but your staff members, the training, a lot of those things will be under the grantee actions. Participant actions. So this allows grantees to monitor, participation, progress, and completion to help those individuals take steps to ensure that the programs expand opportunity that result in an increase in the apprenticeship participation and employment outcomes, right? So the examples of that include the applicants, the demographics of those applicants, the attendance, the academic performance, and other progress measures. And then we have the financials. So that includes the grantee's actual expenditures in comparison with the allocated budget. So this data is used to determine if Illinois Works funds are used for activities that are allowable under the grant. Leveraged resources can also be used to support your program. So financial data is reported through the monthly periodic financial report, general ledger, and supporting documentation. We talk about this very often. The IWRS functions as your PPR, the periodic performance report, and there are times in which that data needs to match the PFR whenever you're talking about actual expenses. So we want to make sure that that's happening, and we'll discuss that later. So I mentioned earlier the pre-apprenticeship life cycle. Again, participant data collection and reporting follows that life cycle, right? It happens at each stage in different ways, and it can be used to influence the entire life cycle. So in the grantee manual, table 25 goes through participant data collection at each of those stages and how that information is reported in IWRS. That's a really important component for the data entry coordinators to utilize. So looking at the data entry, that is the activity of entering that data into a computer software application, in our case IWRS, so that it can be stored, monitored, and analyzed. And while the data collection is often focused on the sources of the information, data entry is where the grantees demonstrate their progress, and the progress of their participants. So Illinois Works is very excited to have IWRS that provides grantees with that live real-time tracking. This tool can identify, early program success as well as, performance gaps so that they can be, very quickly and officially identified and rectified. It's important to note that outcomes and subsequent performance-based payments are based on the data that's entered in IWRS. So, it's been said multiple times, if it didn't happen, if it's not in IWRS, it didn't happen, right? The Office of Illinois Works cannot use any other information or data that's not in IWRS to determine program compliance or performance-based payments, right? It has to be in IWRS in order for your grant manager to utilize that towards your maximum performance reimbursement eligibility. So, if we're not stressing it enough, let me just be very direct. Accurate and up-to-date data collection and entry is essential and required. So, with that comes a quality control, right? So that's the process of regularly reviewing the data that's collected and entered into IWRS for accuracy. We see all the time that somebody gets a copy of a diploma or transcript and they scan it, at least they think they do, and then they upload, they save it and they upload it into IWRS, but they had it upside down in the feeder and it scanned the back of it. Well, they entered the data, they collected it, they entered it, but that's not, accurate. There was no quality control there. So it's essential for maintaining the integrity of the pre-apprenticeship program. And so in the Grantee Manual, you can find out more information on that data quality assurance with Table 26. It identifies data quality characteristics as well as examples for measuring the program's ability to demonstrate data quality control. The Grantee Manual will also feature a data verification checklist. I believe that will be Exhibit 16. Grantees will be able to utilize this checklist as part of their data quality management plan. It's a tool that offers a checklist of all the items that must be entered or uploaded into IWRS at each stage of the pre-apprenticeship lifecycle. Grantees would be able to utilize this tool really on a per participant basis, right? As each participant goes through the stage of the lifecycle from intake through follow-up, you should be ensuring that you're collecting and entering the information that's appropriate to each stage of the lifecycle. In addition to that checklist, we require that grantees complete a data quality management plan. So this plan will be completed annually and will identify the staff members who are responsible for data entry and verification. And it requires that grantees outline a timeline for when data will be entered and verified. So, for example, some grantees might operate on a system of, every day the data entry staff is ensuring that the information from the previous day is entered into IWRS, and once a week, maybe it's Monday morning, maybe it's Friday afternoon, the data quality coordinator or the data entry coordinator will ensure the quality of that data by going through a quality check and kind of auditing the information that's been entered into IWRS. So each program can kind of figure out what's going to work well for them. It is an absolute necessity that the person reviewing the data is different from the person that's entering the data. Because you just develop blind spots when you're the one entering it. You can't really proofread or double check your own work. So that does need to be a different person. So the staff at the Center for Workforce Development at SIU offers resources and ongoing assistance to Illinois Works grantees, and they do that through our help desk. Again, they essentially are going to work in conjunction with your grant manager whenever you have difficulty in IWRS. Grantees are, of course, required to first develop their Illinois WorkNet profile in order to then gain access to IWRS, since IWRS is built on Illinois WorkNet. There is no limit to the number of grantee staff members that can have an IWRS profile. However, it's important to remember that the more individuals you have entering data, the higher the need for quality control, right? So especially if people are only entering data, and if you have so many people that one individual is just entering data on a very infrequent basis, those people will need even more assistance because they will forget how to do something or not understand an update. So it's important to maintain quality control, especially as the number of individuals that you're working with goes up. So grantees should definitely have one dedicated person, though, to verify that data entry. And not only do you want to do it on a weekly basis, as the example I gave, but it's definitely somebody that you'll want to do that before the monthly compliance reviews. And that ensures that the data being entered adheres to the quality standards that your grant manager is going to be looking for. And again, that flows right through your performance, not only compliance with your goals to the grant, but also the performance financially to your grant. IWRS offers several reports that will assist you with these, with your data entry and data validation. In section 11 of the grantee manual, you can read more about some of those reports and the dashboards. The dashboards, I think, are discussed more in section 12, which will be discussed today. And then, of course, you can view the IWRS training sessions to see some more information about that as well. So the Office of Illinois Works conducts an annual closeout process. Now, this is different from the grant closeout process that an organization will go through when they close their overall grant with the state of Illinois. But this is an annual process that's led by your pre-apprenticeship program grant manager to verify the accuracy and completeness of the participant data that's in IWRS. And that process culminates in the release of closeout funds for your grantees. So it's part of your reimbursement maximum eligibility. It's not funds that are just directly sent out. Again, we run a performance and reimbursement grant. So not only do those funds, are they held for performance, right, of the successful closeout, but then a grantee still has to have proper, reimbursement eligibility to receive those funds. So this closeout process is on top of the monthly compliance process. It acts as a second verification for grant managers to ensure that all of the data is accurate before we leave that kind of grant year. And we'll discuss that closeout section a little bit more or the closeout component a little bit more in the next section. Any questions about the section 10 of the grantee manual that we've just covered?
There are no questions in the chat.
Okay. All right, well, let's jump into section 11. And this is the finances, records, and reports. So I've made reference to this a couple times in the last section. Like I said, they kind of go hand in hand. This one will allow us to, discuss the difference between reporting and record keeping, reference tips for file organization and maintenance, utilize the participant file checklist that I mentioned to collect and maintain required documents, comply with Grant Accountability and Transparency Act requirements. We'll refer to that as GATA requirements. Accurately and timely submit standardized GATA reports that are tied to your grants agreement. One of which is, of course, the Periodic Financial Report, PFR, which you use to submit your monthly expenses. Explain how the performance-based payment model was designed and how it applies to grant reimbursement. We'll discuss submitting a performance-based payment appeal and determining the appropriate use of funds, how to request budget modifications, advances when, at the beginning of the year for new grants and how to establish a procurement policy. So again, this is all part of section 11, and it will set the expectations for record keeping and management, exploring how to submit your programmatic and financial reports, and really help you understand the appropriate use of Illinois Works funds as they relate to expenditures, budget modifications, and procurement. So let's first just kind of set the stage for record keeping versus reporting. So typically, one or more staff members who are accountable for data entry are also accountable for that reporting and record keeping. Record keeping is the process of ensuring the maintenance of pre-apprenticeship program records, including all required activities, transactions, and events. Reporting is the process of organizing those records, and they can then be used to monitor the program and determine if goals are achieved. Accurate record keeping is essentially a prerequisite for effective reporting. You should keep in mind that there are some records that are, might be paper files, and there are defined requirements for that in the grantee manual, as well as, sometimes those same paper documents are required to be scanned and uploaded into IWRS as well. So it's important to remember that we have the Illinois Works Jobs Program Act, which dictates the rules for this fund, but there are also state of Illinois reporting requirements that organizations are held to as well. So effective record keeping and reporting impacts the documentation of completed work, program planning, program operations, program evaluation, ongoing monitoring and self-assessments, continuous improvement, communication, knowledge transfer, institutional memory, legal issues, risk management, leadership continuity, among other things, right? So again, a record is that collection of related data items or information. So then as you build those records, it might have a participant file, which becomes a collection of those records. You might have cohort files, which are things possibly like attendance records that apply to all of the participants within a general cohort, and you will have your own file for, say, the Office of Illinois Works, where you'll keep records of memorandums of understanding or vendor contracts and staff training certifications, things like that. So participant files should be organized and structured to facilitate compliance with the requirements of the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program. So grantees are required to keep all participant records and files for at least 3 years following the pre-apprenticeship program completion or dismissal from a program. And there's significant information that, again, you'll have to retain the hard copy records for those 3 years, and other information, or sometimes some of the same information, is required to be scanned and uploaded into IWRS. So I mentioned before that participant file checklist. It will provide a list of the required records that you will include in your participant's file. So that'll be Exhibit 7 of the grantee manual. This next section outlines the Illinois Works reporting requirements. These include the periodic performance report, which we just refer to as the PPR. This is a standard uniform statewide performance progress reporting format. It's used by all state agencies to collect performance information from recipients of state grant awards. So unless statutorily exempt, as documented in the Uniform Grant Agreement, all grant awards are subject to this periodic performance reporting. and certainly the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program grant agreements are. Specific directions will be supplied to you from your grantees, from your assigned financial grant manager once your agreement has been executed. So the PPRs will be due on a monthly basis, and they really refer to IWRS as the essentially the PPR system, right? So additional supporting documentation would not be required because you'll simply have that PPR pointing to your information in IWRS. The periodic financial report, the PFR, is again, it's a standard uniform statewide financial reporting format. It's used by all state agencies to collect financial information from recipients of state grant awards. Again, unless they were statutorily exempt, but this grant, the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program, certainly requires it. Specific directions on how to complete the PFR will again be supplied by your financial grant manager if you are unaware, if you're new to the program. And these again are submitted on a monthly basis along with your general ledger and whatever supporting documentation the financial grant manager requests. That's essentially proof of those expenditures. The program administrators were introduced to the GATA reports during the 2025 program administrators orientation. And if you missed that or you want to revisit those to understand a little bit more about the PFR and PPR, you can view that recording on our partner guide. And then of course, you can read more about it in the grantee manual. So the GATA resource website for the state of Illinois also has additional information where you can access this more documents and training videos on the PFR and PPR. So I think a link is going to be placed in the chat directing you to that GATA resource site. Grantees should definitely avail themselves of the training and support through that site. So that link that was just sent to you, I think I'll talk about it again a little bit later, but we are providing you with this onboarding training for our grant, but state of Illinois requirements for GATA, we'll talk about it later, but for auditing purposes, for reporting purposes, that training is all available through that GATA resource site and the DCO site. So I definitely suggest if you're new to grants with the state of Illinois that you view those independently. So the fiscal report requirements, a grantee's financial management system must be structured to provide for accurate, current, complete disclosure of financial results for the pre-apprenticeship program. The general ledger must support costs and revenue reported to the Office of Illinois Works and must allow the ability to trace funds to a level of expenditure that's adequate to ensure that the funds were spent appropriately. Additional information regarding how to complete that PFR is available on that the partner resource site. It's available on the GATA resource site. Different information, so I suggest grantees avail themselves of both. And if you have any specific questions, you can reach out to your Illinois Works Financial Grant Manager. As with any grant funding, the funds must be used for the purpose of implementing the specific grant, in this case, the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program. Specific allowable grant costs were set forth in the NOFO and the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program rules. So allowable costs include expenditures, all must comply with 2 CFR 200, and more information again is available in the grantee manual. And if you have any questions about specific expenditures, you can contact your programmatic grant manager. And if it's unclear whether that's something that you had already budgeted for, or whether it's an allowable cost as laid out in the grantee manual. All Illinois Works program grantees, pre-apprenticeship program grantees that have an advance available to them will receive that after their grant agreement is executed. So I know there have been some questions about when advances are going to be made available. That happens after your overall grant agreement is executed. And in order to receive an advance, grantees must have submitted a formal letter on organizational letterhead signed by the authorized signatory and had that submitted to the Office of Illinois Works. Any budget modifications that a grantee wishes to enact must be approved by your Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program grant manager, then by your financial grant manager, and then by the deputy director in order for it to then proceed into the budget modification process. Once all those approvals are done, the budget modification process typically takes 4 to 6 weeks, but that is very dependent on the time of year. Certainly right now, it takes longer because we're executing grant agreements in general, whether they're the new grant agreements for yours or the renewal grant agreements for our returning grantees. During the middle of the summer, of course, the state, the fiscal calendar goes from July 1st to June 30th. And so there will be a state shutdown of everything financial from end of June until sometimes mid-August, and so nothing will proceed during that time as well. So it will take obviously longer than those 4 to 6 weeks. It's important to know that budget modifications are not something that should be done frequently. It should not be engaged in unless absolutely necessary, because once the budget modification goes into progress, expense reimbursements will not be paid out by the state of Illinois until that new budget has been approved and entered into the state grant system. So again, that 4 to 6 week period, no funds can be dispersed by the state of Illinois on that grant. So you will continue to submit your expenses and all required reports per the existing budget until the new one is approved. And guidance of the appropriate use of funds and budget modifications was also addressed again during the program administrator's orientation. So if you want to revisit that, you can view that recording on the partner guide. All right, it feels like I've been talking forever, so let's move to a Mentimeter question before we get into the heart of the performance-based portion of this grant. So please let us know if you have managed a performance-based grant before. Simply yes or no. I know that many of you, this will be new. And really, unless you have worked with the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program, a performance-based grant, then it's probably going to be news to you anyway, even if you've experienced a different grant program's performance-based elements. So, all right, so it looks like obviously, and again, this is for the new grantees, this grant training or this webinar. So this is obviously to be expected. So, for those of you that are familiar with this type of model, it certainly has a reputation for having challenges, but we are here to help you. We are highly invested in your success, and we want to ensure that you fully understand it and that we create a structure that is beneficial to our grantees, because our participants in the program can't be successful unless you're successful, so, and vice versa. All right, so hopefully this image will be familiar to all of you. We have shown it multiple times during the NOFO process, during NOFO technical assistance. I think we showed it several times during negotiations for some grantees, but we also showed it during the administrative onboarding. So the performance-based model that the Office of Illinois Works utilizes for the pre-apprenticeship program is rooted in the belief that the grant funding should be based on an organization's tangible impact in the community. So in order to do that, we utilize a combination of performance-based and reimbursement models. That means that the metrics that you have entered into IWRS dictate the amount of funding that's available for reimbursement, but then grantees must still submit allowable expenses in order to access that funding and receive reimbursement. So some key components: if grantees exceed their metrics, you can actually earn funding beyond your initial grant award, or more commonly, you can unlock higher than expected amounts within a single goal, sometimes helping to make up for deficits within a single goal. Due to the live real-time reporting of IWRS, DCO can make disbursements on a monthly basis. Rather than waiting for the end of the program and to analyze the overall impact and performance, we do this on a monthly basis. And then grantees certainly have the right to appeal to the Office of Illinois Works if you believe that you missed an outcome due to variables outside of your control. So one of the key examples of that is if you recruit and enroll a participant into your program that is like the ideal candidate, right? And they're fantastic in every way. And in fact, so much so that, 6 weeks, I'm just making up a number, but 6 weeks into your 14-week pre-apprenticeship program, they actually get accepted into an apprenticeship program, and it starts during your program, and they can't do both. Well, the overall goal for the pre-apprenticeship program is to get into the apprenticeship program. So they wind up leaving because that's really what's going to set them off on the right path. That can be something that an organization can submit an appeal for. Say, hey, we helped this person in every way. They weren't able to complete our program, but we actually got the end result that they were looking for. And of course, the key here being that the reason they dropped out of the program was because they had to start the apprenticeship program. That's something that would be an example of a really good reason to appeal, and that was something that was outside of your control. I do want to highlight real quick that if your program runs April to mid-June and they drop out in May because they were awarded an apprenticeship program that starts on August 1st, well, them dropping out of your program had nothing to do with them starting on August 1st, right? So that would not be something that would be an allowable appeal for completion. All right, looking at these funding benchmarks, again, these are the things that we had gone over multiple times in the past, but it's so important for you to understand them. Let's take a listen again. The 4 benchmarks are enrollment, completion, transition, and then that annual closeout that we talked about. Each of these is connected to a percentage of your overall grant award. And again, that's so that we can implement a performance-based model rather than an outcome. So we can do this on a monthly basis rather than waiting to see the overall results of your program. And additional funding beyond your initial grant award can be available if a grantee were to exceed your outcome metrics. If you do it so much so that you exceed the entire award, and you may have incurred additional expenses, that could require you to submit a budget modification, but that's something that happens at the end of the year when we see whether or not the expenses really justify creating a budget modification. So again, can't stress this enough that there are 2 components. One is the performance-based model. The other is the reimbursement. So just unlocking funding through a reimbursement eligibility does not get your organization paid. They must also submit allowable expenses in order to receive that money from the state of Illinois. So what we're looking at here are the typical funding formulas for for the pre-apprenticeship program, and you'll notice enrollment is listed there at 25%, completion at 30%, transition at 35%, and closeout at 10%. Now, most of your organizations are receiving in advance, which then changes this a little bit. And on top of that, most of the new organizations are also in the accelerator program, which provides a larger advance, so it actually impacts the funding for the enrollment, completion, and transition. A typical advance only impacts the closeout, but we'll see an example of that accelerator program. Again, we look at this to determine the number of actual enrolled participants. Well, first we start with your goal, and we look at the goals for the number of participants who should complete the program and the number of participants who should transition. And those are outlined, of course, in your work plan, and those should all be with your grant managers. I think at this point, they will be officially approved. Those numbers do not change. They are tied to your grant agreement. So even if the dates of your work plan wind up changing, even the numbers within a given cohort rarely change, but they could. But the overall numbers in terms of the number of people you're enrolling, your goal for your enrollment, your goal for your completion, your goal for transition, those do not change. So each of these metrics will represent a specific percentage of the grant award. The percentage of the funding related to each benchmark is the maximum funding amount that could be reimbursed if the grantee meets all outcome metrics by the end of the grant, by the end of the agreement. Additional funding, again, can be made available if you exceed metrics based on the per participant allotment that we're going to walk through below. This model features the reimbursement component that you must still submit those allowable expenses through your PFR in order to receive disbursement from the Office of the Comptroller. So it's important to note that under transitions are broken further from a per participant amount for each transition to the type of transition. So there's something called a preliminary transition, which is when the participant applies to a registered apprenticeship program. That awards 50% of the total transition amount. And then when the person is accepted and enrolls into that apprenticeship program, they will then receive the remaining 50% for that transition service. So we'll see that, I think, in a moment, and you'll get a better detail of how that all comes into play. But I do want to highlight here, very simply, I know I've talked a lot, but we can see this graphically, or we can see this on the screen, that completion and transition of participants. Completion is 30%, transition is 35%. Together, they represent 65% of the grant award funding, right? So this puts a primary focus on those key program outcomes. I think we've talked about this in the past at the administrative onboarding meeting. I think we even touched on it during the IWRS training in Rockford. It does not serve an organization to just place people in seats, right? Your outreach and recruitment has to be laser focused on finding individuals that actually want a career in construction and meet all the other eligibility requirements, because very often, especially new organizations, will be used to serving the community, and simply anyone that wants to join a program can join a program. But remember, we go through first eligibility requirements and then the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program interview, and they have to score high enough in order to be part of your program, because if they don't, you won't receive that 65% of your grant funding for that participant. I talked about capital advances. Again, if in this typical funding formula, if a program was receiving an advance, they would receive an 8% advance. That would reduce the closeout report to 2%. The advances for accelerated programs are 20%, so it winds up decreasing all of the four benchmarks here that we can see by a little bit. I think we see that on the next slide, if we could go to that. Yeah, so we can see that that accelerated program has a much larger capital advance, so it reduces the enrollment participant, the enrollment benchmark funding to 21%, completion to 26%, transition to 31%, and the closeout reports to 2%, as is typical for an advance. But I should highlight still, completion and transition are still 57% of your overall grant funding. And that advance, you still need to recoup your performance funding for that. That is not, essentially just, money that is, given to an organization. If a program received their capital advance and never ran the program, they wouldn't hit any performance benchmarks. That entire advance would have to be returned. Again, it's not just performance, it's also reimbursement. So an organization would still need to provide documentation of eligible expenses in order to essentially keep that advance at the end of the program. So this accelerated program is designed to cultivate, and help new workforce development programs with a comprehensive approach. So that's why they do have a larger capital advance. And again, it's typically a one-year program. The goal is to graduate into our track 2 or track 1 or track 2 programs after the initial year. But again, sometimes that doesn't happen and an organization stays in the accelerator program, but advances are only available in the first year of a grant. So it's really important to understand that. So before I move on from this screen, do we have any questions? This wasn't, really part of the the presentation, but since we can visibly see what's going on here, I just want to check to see if there are any questions.
There are no questions in the chat.
Okay, great. It just felt like I'd been talking a lot, and this is a lot of good information. So just wanted to confirm that. Thank you very much for me. So the monthly compliance reviews that I talked about, what we do is we look at the performance that's, that we review through IWRS. We look at the data that's in IWRS, and based on our verifications, a per participant allotment is provided, and which is the result of the funding benchmark divided percentage divided by the funding benchmark participant goal, right? So in this example here, we can see that the enrollment goal is 25 participants. That's for the entire grant, right? Not a single cohort. We're looking at the entire grant amount. Based on the 25%, say, enrollment benchmark for a $400,000 grant, that enrollment amount would be $100,000. So 100,000 divided by 25 participants means that for every enrollment that an organization or that a grant manager verifies, the grantee will be eligible to be reimbursed $4,000, right? So that's how we break everything down for enrollment, completion, and transition into a per participant allotment. It's based on the benchmark, funding of the grant itself, and the goal for that benchmark. So we discussed this in detail during the program administrators orientation. Again, we also discussed it during one of the NOFO technical assistance. That is still up on the NOFO site. You could view that, but I would recommend going to the partner guide and watching the 2025 program administrators orientation if you still have questions about this after our discussion here today. So here's how funds are dispersed. You submit your expenses through your PFR on a monthly basis, and those PFRs are due, essentially every 30 days, and reports are submitted after the last calendar day of the month may cause your organization to go into a fee lock or a stop payment list. So it's important to stay on top of those reports. And you can refer to the PFR section of the grantee manual for more information on that. PFRs that are successfully submitted with their general ledger and supporting documentation will be reviewed by the financial grant manager, and any allowable expenses will be approved. The financial grant manager will compare that amount received through the PFR with the maximum reimbursement amount that is submitted by the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program grant manager. So that's your programmatic grant manager. Again, they're the ones that review monthly compliance for performance. If the financial grant manager approved amount is equal to or less than the maximum reimbursement amount, then those expenses, all of those expenses will be approved for release, and the fund disbursements will come from the Office of the Comptroller, right? So it's always going to be the lesser of the two. The Office of Illinois Works does not determine, that maximum amount. It's based on your performance basis or your PFR. So looking at how this really winds up working for a given grantee. This is the typical funding formula, a non-accelerator, non-advance. So everything is pretty simple here. We can see in this example that the funding award amount is $550,000. So that's the overall fund grant. Remember, enrollments in this typical format are worth 25%. So 25% of 550,000 is 137,500. We're all just going to assume the math is correct, but that's where that works. That $137,500 for program enrollment is divided by the 50 individuals that are the goal for enrollment, and that winds up with a per participant allotment of $2,750. So again, as the monthly compliance rolls through, your grant manager will view your data in IWRS and only the data in IWRS to determine whether or not they verify those enrollments. In this example, the grant manager verified 52 enrollments. And so the reimbursement eligibility, not the actual funding paid out, but the reimbursement eligibility would be $143,000. Right, so you can see that actually exceeded just slightly the $137,500 of that goal. Later in completion, I'm not going to walk through each of the numbers, but you can see in the second to last column that the grant manager verified 43 completions, and that unlocked $167,000 of reimbursement eligibility. So it's at 43 times the $3,837.21 of completion per participant allotment. So that was right on target with the goal. And then later we have the transitions. Now, the primary transition preliminary, that's where an individual has applied to a registered apprenticeship program. It says 75% there. That was from last year. It's now 50%. And the primary transition final, which is an individual actually enrolling in a registered apprenticeship program, that is the remaining 50%. So that would give an individual their full amount of the transition credit. So we don't display it here, but essentially the full transition credit would be the $192,500 divided by the goal of 35 transitions, primary transitions, which is $5,500. So that's the maximum that you could receive on a per participant basis for a transition. We also have an alternative construction transition. That's when an individual, instead of going into a construction-based registered apprenticeship program, they go into a construction-related employment. So maybe they get a job as a solar installer. Maybe they go work for ComEd in their programs. So that is worth 70% of that transition per participant allotment, which again I said was 5,500. And then a secondary transition is also worth 50%. That is just employment in a non-construction industry. So the person decided that really construction wasn't for them after completing the program, but then you help them get a job. It cannot be the same job they just had, right? It can be a promotion from what they had because they were in this program, but they need to show proof of that, and there's a employment verification document in the grantee manual that can help with that. And then we have the closeout report. So let's take a look at the next one, which is the accelerator. Let's see here. So this one, this actually looks like it's the same. Yeah, this is the same. This isn't the accelerator. It just has reduced funding amounts. So an actual accelerator graph would show that the program enrollment was funded at, I think, what did we say it was, 23%. The program completion would be funded at, I think it was 25%, 26%, something like that. Again, each of those gets reduced. So let's move on to those compliance reviews. So we talked about how at the end of each month, your Illinois Works grant manager will check each grantee's outcome. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah, at the end of each month, the pre-apprenticeship program grant manager will check each grantee's outcome metrics and look at how your organization has progressed towards your goal. And that will determine the maximum reimbursement eligibility that your organization can receive for reimbursement. They provide that information to the financial grant manager. The financial grant manager compares that to your PFR and what you're eligible to receive for reimbursement, and then they send that information to the Office of the Comptroller to actually send the payment to your organization. The Office of Illinois Works conducts these monthly compliance reviews to ensure that grantees are adhering to the program expectations based on the grant agreement. It heavily involves the use of the approved work plan, and certainly we're referencing the grantee manual in terms of compliance for guidance. I just want to take a moment, again, that work plan that you get approved. So when you tell your grant manager on the work plan and they approve it, that your cohort is starting April 1st, that is what we're going to base your compliance on. If you need to delay it by a week or 2 weeks or a month, you need to reach out to your grant manager in advance to request approval to change your work plan dates. You cannot reach out to them afterwards for pre-approval because it's no longer pre-approval by definition, and that will negatively impact your compliance score. Again, when we begin the monthly compliance program, the grant manager looks at the data in IWRS and determines your progress toward enrollment completion and transition goals. We look at performance and we look at compliance and financial compliance. So based on the data that's entered in IWRS, the grant manager assigns an overall progress rating to your organization. Excellent progress is when your organization meets or exceeds the required outcomes, meaning more than 100% of the compliance metrics. Good progress is when your organization receives a 76 to 100%. Inadequate means that your organization is only hitting 50 to 75% of the targeted goals. And poor progress is when you are receiving less than 50% of your targeted goals. The overall compliance rating is provided to you on a monthly basis, and it determines which metrics are reviewed each month. The monthly progress report that is provided to grantees will show the increase in your reimbursement eligibility based on that month's review, and it will provide information as to what was entered into IWRS as compared to the previous month's compliance review. You will also receive a payment worksheet that aggregates the number of enrollments, completions, primary transitions, alternative construction transitions, and secondary transitions. It essentially provides you with an example of the performance-based funding formula and your reimbursement maximum and grant award information. So you can, all of this information that I'm going over again is part of section 11, where you can see how that information is laid out in the grantee manual. Again, the per participant allotment for an enrollment and completion is multiplied by the number of participants that meet that benchmark as determined by your grant manager. Transitions, however, are a per participant allotment based on the participant's progress toward the transition. So if you recall from Grantee Manual Session 2, we spoke about transitions. I've talked about it a couple times today. The primary transition is when a participant is applying to and accepted into a U.S. Department of Labor registered apprenticeship program, which certainly that's the ultimate goal of the Office of Illinois Works and produces that the highest per participant allotment. You know, it's a two-step process of applying to those registered apprenticeship programs, which is the primary transition preliminary, and actually enrolling in the registered apprenticeship program, which is the primary transition final. We also have that alternative construction transition, which I talked about, worth 70% of the overall primary transition per participant allotment, and the secondary transition, which is 50% of that amount. And then the final benchmark being that closeout process, which is done at the end of the year, and we review all of the data in IWRS, specifically the information that we had not reviewed during monthly compliances. I mentioned that performance-based appeal. I gave an example of that. It's really meant for circumstances where things were outside the control of the grantee organization, and we have a performance-based payments appeal form in the grantee manual. It's Exhibit 14. You can submit up to 3 participant appeals per form. If it exceeds that, we typically ask that you provide us with an appeal letter on your letterhead and providing all the information in terms of you know, what happened, why it happened, and what's needed. So are there any questions before we stop for a break?
There are no questions in the chat.
Okay. Fantastic. So either everyone was just fully informed or I put everyone to sleep. Either way, we're due for a 5-minute break. So please return at 11:24. Thank you very much.
Okay, welcome back everyone from your break, and thank you, Dan, for your presentation on Section 11, Finances, Records, and Reports. Regardless of how many times I hear that information, it's always helpful to hear it one more time, so thank you. I will share with you information on Section 12, Using Data for Program Management and Continuous Improvement. Our objectives for this section are to describe the Illinois Works Continuous Program Improvement Plan, how to utilize the Program Improvement Plan template to execute continuous improvement for your program, how to apply each step in the performance management process, how to identify different approaches for pre-apprenticeship program evaluation, and how to ensure all participants take the participant satisfaction survey and learn how to utilize the results of the survey to strengthen your program. So let's take a look at Section 12 of the 2025 Grantee Manual. Grantees are accountable for program management and continuous improvement. Program management is the process of directing and overseeing two or more related activities that have the same aim with the goal of compliance with program expectations, improving performance, and ensuring outcomes are met. Effective program management often includes a continuous improvement process throughout the entire pre-apprentice life cycle. Continuous program improvement is the ongoing assessment of performance outcomes with the goal of identifying opportunities for incremental and innovative enhancements during each phase of the life cycle. Continuous program improvement is an ongoing effort to improve services and program delivery. This is not punitive or corrective. It is about ongoing improvement. Continuous program improvement challenges grantees to respond to the question, how can we be even better? One way is through the required program improvement plan, which each grantee is required to execute to communicate how service delivery practices can be improved for optimal program performance. As a resource, Exhibit 9, Performance Improvement Plan, is available in the appendix of the 2025 Grantee Manual. So let's go to Mentimeter. Using Mentimeter, please answer the following question. How has your program previously used continuous program improvement models?
You guys, your request, I don't know if you remember, this was slightly short last time we did that.
How has your program previously used continuous program improvement models?
Well, I know some.
Don't be shy.
It's get worried whatever the number is. It's gonna be, so, you guys should have 40
Okay, pre and post assessments, student satisfaction, find gaps internally. That's very important. Improve training. Thank you. Are there other ways your program has previously used continuous program improvement models? Program improvement, yes.
Oh, no. You got a review? Oh, gosh.
Okay. Data. Absolutely. We're going to talk some more about data and reporting in just a little bit. Data collection analysis. Absolutely. Client surveys. We'll also talk about the student participation survey. So fantastic. Okay. Certainly feel free to continue to add those answers. But in the meantime, we're going to move on. So thank you so much for your participation. We appreciate that. So the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program, Continuous Program Improvement Model, is designed to promote improvements to service delivery through program performance. Program performance is basically the degree to which grantees meet their objectives and achieve their goals. Program performance does not just consider what grantees accomplish, but how it was accomplished. The gauge could be appropriate behavior, ethical decision-making, and program compliance with Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program expectations, among others. It includes measuring outcomes. Program performance is determined by measuring outcomes, which is a systemic way of assessing if programs have achieved their goals through the collection and analysis of data. Benchmarking against program goals. Continuous program improvement requires grantees to identify points within the program when actual performance is measured against performance goals, also known as benchmarking. There's brainstorming opportunities for improvement. During brainstorming, facilitated group discussion can be used to search for new and innovative strategies to improve performance. Additional information regarding brainstorming strategies for improvement can be found in the 2025 Grantee Manual. And finally, there's implementing new strategies. Once the leadership team has identified a new strategy to help close a performance gap, it must be put into action by your team. And we're going to go back to Mentimeter to talk about what techniques do you use to generate new and innovative ideas to support program success? What techniques do you use to generate new and innovative ideas to support program success? Team brainstorming, absolutely. Staff meetings, team huddles. That sounds pretty cool. Outreach, research best practices. A lot of research is being done. Fantastic.
I know that there was a period there where I was super responsible.
Figure out what's trending. There's always something new trending. Fantastic idea. Social media, absolutely. Team brainstorming, brain dump, and then implement the top 5 ideas. I like that too. Feedback from anyone and everyone, certainly. There are a lot of different perspectives out there, and it's always good to hear more than just one. So that's a good idea as well. Okay, are there any others before we move on?
Programmatic reviews.
Okay, invest in soft skills. Postmortems. Let's do a dissection of what happened, right? Feedback from young people. See what young people are using and doing. And again, there's some very innovative and creative young people out there. So it's always a good idea to see what they're thinking. Fantastic. Okay. So just a few more. Obviously, all of those were fantastic. But some of the things that we were thinking are brainstorming, which of course you said. You want to partner with your grant manager for technical assistance needs. You can also partner with your program coach. It's super important to gain a fresh perspective from your new employees while also respecting the historical content and the expertise from your seasoned program staff. You can talk with other Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program grantees to generate new and innovative ideas. Also, feedback from partners, feedback from community stakeholders, feedback from your own program participants, which I think a few people mentioned there, and also professional development materials from professional associations who typically provide industry-specific best practices. So thank you for that, and I appreciate your engagement. Let's talk about performance gaps. Grantees can benchmark their performance using a dashboard. There's the programmatic dashboard and also a follow-up dashboard. For information on accessing our dashboards and other relevant reports, please refer back to our previous IWRS sessions that were recorded and uploaded to the partner guide. In the meantime, benchmarking dashboards allow grantees to visually see the comparative data between actual performance and program goals, exposing any performance gaps. Performance gaps are the difference between the program goal and the actual program performance. The programmatic dashboard can be found on the navigation bar in IWRS. The programmatic dashboard allows grantees to quickly identify key programmatic information, including some red flags, perhaps. Some items that are identified by red flags on our programmatic dashboard are the total participants with absences. Can't talk today. Participants with absences per cohort. Also per cohort participants with failed post-assessments and total past due follow-up dates. Intake is included as a part of our programmatic dashboard. There you can find the total number of individuals with inquiry status, whether that be closed, cold, or hot. Closed, cold, warm, or hot. Participants enrolled in each cohort. Total participants not enrolled, and that could include persons who either declined an invitation to join the program or those who were not selected, and also your total number of participants. There's participant engagement. Total number of active participants, total participants with a training service, participants with an open training service that are past due for attendance entry. All of these things can be found under participant engagement. You can also find total participants with wraparound services, total participants with student support services, and participants with a transition service open for more than 6 months. Moving on to earned credentials, certain information that you can find under that tab is total participants who have not earned a credential of any type. Total participants per cohort that have earned an NCCER, Trades Future MC3, or ICCB certification can be found, along with participants who have earned the OSHA 10 certification and the First Aid CPR certificate or certification. Additional information that can be found. Total participants per cohort with information status. Incomplete status, I apologize. Total participants per cohort who have successfully completed. Total participants per cohort who have unsuccessfully completed. This tab is very important. I'm sorry, it's the section Pre-Apprenticeship Program Completion and Transition Services. In that area of the dashboard, you can find total successfully completed participants with an open transition service, total or per cohort participants who successfully completed and received a transition service, total or per cohort participants who are hired by an employer and enrolled in a registered apprenticeship program, along with participants who achieved either a secondary transition, such as opening a small business, or persons that are employed in construction but not in a registered apprenticeship program. And then finally, under provider and employer sponsorship relationships, you can find the total number of union apprenticeship relationships, total number of contractors and subcontractor relationships, and the total number of non-union apprenticeship relationships. And I just went through a ton of information. So please see Table 30, IWRS Dashboard Sections, Programmatic and Participant Data in the 2025 Grantee Manual for additional information. In looking at the dashboard, you will also find that each metric on the dashboard has an associated color that communicates what action might be needed. So again, for more information about the dashboard and what those different colors mean, please refer to Table 31, IWRS Dashboard Sections, Active and Long-Term Tracking, which can also be found in the 2025 Grantee Manual. Okay, we also have a follow-up dashboard. The follow-up dashboard focuses on follow-up and tracking beyond the participant's tenure in the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program. The sections in that dashboard include post-program active tracking and long-term tracking. Under post-program active tracking, you can find total alumni not in the construction industry at the time of follow-up, total alumni in the construction industry at the time of follow-up, total alumni on a RAP waiting list, and also total alumni in a RAP, total alumni who are progressing in a RAP, and total alumni that withdrew from a RAP or a registered apprenticeship program. Under long-term tracking, we find total alumni not in the construction industry, and also total alumni in the construction industry at the time of follow-up. Again, you can find your total alumni on a registered apprenticeship program waiting list, or those who are actually hired into a registered apprenticeship program. Total alumni progressing in a RAP, total alumni that withdrew from a RAP, and the total number of alumni in Journey Persons status can also be found under long-term tracking. Okay, next. Key outcome metrics. Grantees develop metrics in accordance with Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program Guidelines in Attachment 1 Proposed Work Plan as a part of your application. Additionally, some metrics may have been negotiated during the contracting phase, which resulted in your current work plan and will be included in your grant agreement. There are, however, two key outcome metrics that are not negotiable. At least 85% of individuals enrolled in your pre-apprenticeship program will successfully complete the pre-apprenticeship training program. Also, at least 70% of the individuals enrolled will be hired or enrolled in a DOL registered apprenticeship program. These required metrics are tracked through IWRS, and using IWRS, you will be able to see how your organization is progressing through the use of these dashboards. Utilizing the dashboards and program reports can help you identify your current standing in specific areas. Not meeting expectation. If you receive a standing of not meeting expectation, that means that your performance outcomes are below expectations at that particular point in time. The current trajectory predicts program goals will not be met. Meeting expectations Performance outcomes means that your performance outcomes are within the margins of expectations at that particular point in time. The current trajectory predicts program goals will be met. And then last, there is exceeding expectations. And that is obviously what we all strive for. But if you are to receive a exceeding expectations standing, that means that your performance outcomes are beyond expectations at that particular time and point. The current trajectory predicts the program will exceed goals. All metrics present potential opportunities for improvement. However, categories that are not meeting expectation should be a top priority. The 2025 Grantee Manual provides a hard copy of Exhibit 8, which is the Grantee Work Plan, in the appendix.
Seems like they still have access to them somehow.
Excuse me. Okay, so I said we would talk more about the participant satisfaction survey. In keeping with Illinois Works' focus on continuous program improvement, both at a grantee and at a network level, all pre-apprenticeship participants who remain engaged in the program through the end of instruction, even if they did not successfully complete, will be asked to provide feedback on their program experience through a participant satisfaction survey. This survey is a requirement, and grantees must ensure that all participants take it. Survey engagement will be a metric review during monthly compliance to determine completion verification. Grantees must ensure that 75% of their graduates in each cohort complete the survey. As a reminder, information regarding the Participant Satisfaction Survey was initially introduced during the Grantee Manual Session 2 that was recorded last week. For more information about the survey, you can also see Section 8 of the Grantee Manual. For convenience, this survey can be assessed by participants via a computer or mobile device. The link will be provided to the grantee by the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program Grant Manager. All responses to this survey are anonymous, and individual data will not be made available to grantees. However, grantees will be provided with aggregate information for their cohorts as a tool to improve programming. As a best practice, on or before the last day of the training component of the pre-apprenticeship program, instructors should provide the cohort with the participant satisfaction survey and require that they complete it as a part of their expectations for that day. The participant satisfaction survey was developed by Illinois Works in partnership with the Center for Government Studies at Northern Illinois University and will be an integral part of the program evaluation process. This survey is only for participants who remain in the program through the end of instruction. If a participant leaves the program before instruction ends, regardless of the reason, they are provided with an exit interview instead. Exhibit 1, Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program Exit Interview, is provided in the appendix of the Grantee Manual. So in addition to the participant satisfaction survey, Illinois Works may employ several different approaches to evaluate pre-apprenticeship programs. These evaluation approaches include implementation, outcome, and/or impact studies. An implementation study documents program operation or compares it against goals across locations or over time. It describes and analyzes what happened and why, and it is generally used to determine if a program is consistent with its goals, design, and other planned aspects. An outcome study compares individual outcomes against goals across programs or locations or over time. They determine if programs achieve their desired results by tracking participant outcomes after they complete or leave pre-apprenticeship programs. And then finally, the impact study. An impact study estimates the difference in individual outcomes attributable to a specific program or policy. It answers the question, is the program the cause of the outcomes? If given the opportunity, grantees are expected to fully support these studies. The results of these evaluation studies will help inform longer-term outcomes and impact studies.
You know what's funny about that?
Each of the studies will have a longitudinal study design, which means that the study will look at variables over an extended period of time, determine if we prepared pre-apprentices for entry into construction and the building trades, if we increase the entry of women, people of color, and veterans into construction and building trades apprenticeships, and if we increase the likelihood that women, people of color, and veteran apprentices will complete
There was no communication.
apprenticeships in construction and the building trades. These studies will support improvement plans and are a critical component of the continuous improvement philosophy of Illinois Works. The data from your follow-up activities will also support these evaluation studies. Your timely and accurate follow-up during that period will be critical to the success of the Illinois Works longitudinal study. Follow-up activities were described in Section 8, Program Completion, Transition Services, and Follow-up during the 2025 Grantee Manual Session 2, which is available on the Illinois Works Partner Guide. Excuse me, are there any questions before we proceed to the next section?
There are no questions in the chat.
Thank you, Fumi. For someone who talks as much as I do, you'd think I'd be able to go longer without needing a drink. But we're going to move on to Section 13, Programmatic Monitoring. In this section, the objectives are to describe the importance of program monitoring, to adhere to the Illinois Works compliance review process, to describe the verification process for completion and transition metrics, to navigate the grant renewal process and carryover credits, to respond to the progressive corrective action process, to create and implement corrective action plans to get off the watch list and probation status and return to program compliance, and last, to attend quarterly administrative meetings to learn about network updates and provide feedback on programmatic progress. Okay, and again, Section 13 is programmatic monitoring. Program monitoring is the Illinois Works initiated activity for ensuring a program is making the expected incremental progress to achieve its goals within a defined timeline as officially submitted to the Office of Illinois Works by each grantee using the work plan. The Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program Grant Manager is primarily accountable for program monitoring. The grant manager's responsibilities include, but are not limited to, supporting the implementation of grant programs, ensuring budgets are within the scope of funding, enforcing regulatory compliance, ensuring grantees' progress towards meeting required outcomes, enforcing progressive corrective action, and overall programmatic monitoring. Grantees are required to have an open door policy, allowing for periodic visits by DCEO and Illinois Works monitors to evaluate the progress of the program and provide documentation upon request of the monitor. Program staff will also maintain contact with participants when needed. Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program Grant Managers will conduct monthly compliance reviews to ensure grantees are adhering to program expectations based on the grant agreement and the approved work plan. During this process, an organization's assigned Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program Grant Manager will export participant data from the Illinois Works Reporting System, or IWRS, to determine each grantee's progress towards enrollment, completion, and primary transition goals. Based on the data entered in IWRS, your grant manager will assign one of the following overall progress ratings based on the grantee's progress toward their enrollment, completion, and primary transition goal. There's excellent progress, good progress, adequate progress, and poor progress. So let's move to Mentimeter and answer the question. What safeguards has your program put in place to ensure compliance? What safeguards has your program put in place to ensure compliance? We're still working on it. Fantastic. And as you're working on that, certainly make sure you reach out to your grant manager for any assistance that you may need. A second eye. It always helps to have a second eye on that information, yes. A data review team. Yes, I think we talked about that, having one person input the data and someone else to review it. Regular meetings covering notes from previous data pool. Fantastic. Weekly data quality reviews. Very good. All of the things we like to hear. Okay. Certainly continue to think about those. I'm sure maybe some other people are still working on it as well. So good job, everyone. Thank you. Each outcome metric must be verified through data entered into IWRS. However, unlike enrollments, which are verified by information provided by Illinois Works exclusively from the grantee, completions and transitions, those being primary, alternate construction, or secondary, require third-party verification. Completion verification requires that a participant has successfully completed all the training modulars and their attendance, post-assessment, and credentials have been entered into the corresponding training modulars. Each participant must also have certificates or credentials uploaded for NCCER, Trades Future MC3, or ICCB, OSHA 10 Construction, First Aid CPR, and any other certificate if applicable based on the grantee's approved curriculum. Grantees should also upload in IWRS all attendance rosters to the organization's provider info tab under grantee details. There are two levels of verification for primary transition. There's preliminary verification and final verification. The first level of confirmation that a completion or transition has taken place and acts as an interim metric while final verification documents are gathered. Preliminary verification carries a 50% outcome metric and reimbursement. Then there's final verification, the second level of confirmation that a completion or transition has taken place. This level verifies that a participant has successfully completed the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program, has enrolled in a DOL registered apprenticeship program, or has secured a secondary transition. Final verification carries a 50% outcome metric and reimbursement. This system is designed to offer credit to programs to cover any time delays between achievement of the metric and securing full verification. It also incentivizes programs to quickly verify completions and maintain connection with participants through full transitions, either enrollment in a registered apprenticeship program or in securing a secondary transition. It is important to note that a participant does not always have to go through both verification levels. For example, if a participant has required documentation for a full transition, they will be automatically considered to have final verification for their primary transition. Non-primary transition can only be accepted once they have reached the final verification stage. There is no preliminary verification for alternative construction or secondary transitions, which means a participant does not receive transition credit for simply applying for a job or for enrollment or applying for enrollment into college or an institute of higher education. Let's talk about third-party documentation. Third-party documentation depends on the level of verification, preliminary or final. We'll discuss some examples of accepted documents. However, this list is not exhaustive. Therefore, if other documentation is available, please communicate with your Illinois Works grant manager to seek approval for the document. All third-party documentation must clearly identify the participant's name and the name of the organization conferring the document. So for completion documentation, all required credentials and certifications offered by the grantee, including NCCER, Trades Future MC3, ICCB, OSHA 10 construction. I'm sorry, let me go back just for a moment. So for completion documentation, each grantee must upload all required credentials or certifications. And for each participant, that would be either an NCCER, Trades Future MC3, or ICCB certification. Each participant should have an OSHA 10 construction card and a first aid CPR certificate or card. If alternate certifications such as flagger, forklift, CDL, or others are offered, this certificate must also be uploaded into IWRS. Grantees must also upload completed attendance rosters for each modular on the organization's provider information page under grantee details in IWRS. For primary transition documentation, a primary transition begins when a participant applies to a construction-based USDOL registered apprenticeship program. There are two levels of verification for a primary transition representing the progress of participants through the USDOL registered apprenticeship program application process. And we talked a little bit about those before, being the preliminary verification and the final verification. So for preliminary verification, some third-party documentation that we could accept is a WRAP application confirmation. We would also accept a receipt from a registered apprenticeship program showing that an application fee was paid. A participant may have a notice of testing from that registered apprenticeship program, or a letter or email from the registered apprenticeship program confirming the participant's application. Documentation outlining that an individual is on a registered apprenticeship program waiting list is an acceptable form of third-party documentation. And also Illinois Works will accept a sponsorship letter from an employer. For final verification, we would accept an acceptance letter into a registered apprenticeship program. For alternative construction transitions, a pay stub may be used as third-party documentation, or an employment letter, or an employment verification form. Ordinarily, when a pay stub is submitted, we ask that also an employment verification form is included. Application for employment does not constitute a final verification, only documentation that employment has been secured. Similar for secondary transitions, we will accept a pay stub, an employment offer letter, or an employment verification form. We will also accept an acceptance letter to an Institute of Higher Education or an advanced training program, among others. And again, I offer again that if you are submitting a pay stub for a secondary transition, we ask that you also include an employment verification form. Additional guidance on these transition types, along with specific direction on short-term employment, internships, existing employment, and transitioning to a DOL registered apprenticeship program internal to the Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program grantee can be found in the grantee manual. Illinois Works also provides an employment verification form that's Exhibit 18 in the appendix of the grantee manual. And that is the form that I suggested should be included along with a pay stub for an alternative construction transition or a secondary transition. And again, that document can also be found as an appendix to the grantee manual. Once an overall progress rating is determined each month, each grantee will be emailed two monthly reports, the monthly compliance progress report and the monthly compliance payment worksheet. The Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program Grant Manager is primarily accountable for program monitoring, including the monthly compliance review. Illinois Works grant managers will conduct monthly compliance reviews to ensure grantees are adhering to program expectations based on the grant agreement and the approved work plan. The monthly compliance progress report provides the grantee with their overall progress rating, the increase to their reimbursement cap based on that month's review, notes regarding their progress rating, and any relevant data trends identified in the review. Information detailed in the progress report is only a snapshot of what is entered in IWRS since the previous month's compliance review. You should note that this report is not an aggregate report. It only includes new enrollments, completions, and transitions since the last monthly compliance progress report. You'll also receive a monthly compliance payment worksheet. This aggregate worksheet outlines the total number of enrollments, completions, primary transitions, and secondary transitions. This report also provides grantees with a detailed outline of their custom performance-based payment formula and reimbursement maximum and grant award information. And please refer back to Section 11, Finances, Records, and Reporting for more information regarding this worksheet. That is quite a bit of the information Dan shared with you in the last section. As established in GATA and explained in the Notice of Funding Opportunity, for each Illinois Works grant year, grantees have the opportunity to renew their grant 2 times. Including the initial grant year, the 2 additional renewals allow grantees to implement the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program for a maximum of 3 years before having to reapply through the merit-based competitive process. In the fall of each grant year, Illinois Works will alert grantees that they have been invited to renew their grant agreement. Grantees will be invited to renew based on their program performance. The performance threshold to qualify renewal will be provided to grantees in August of each grant year. Grantees invited to renew will be asked to submit a grant renewal application and a series of programmatic forms that detail the plans for the future grant year. Let's talk about carryover credit. Due to the timing of programming and cycles of registered apprenticeship program enrollment periods, it is possible that a participant will attend training in one grant year, but not complete or fully transition into the following grant year or beyond. As a result, a carryover credit will be provided to grantees for their pre-apprentice graduates related outcome metric if the completion or transition takes place within the same grant agreement as the original enrollment. Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship grant agreements last a maximum of 3 years. The initial grant year followed by up to 2 renewals. These renewals are extensions of the original grant agreement. After the second renewal, GATA requirements dictate that grantees must reapply and go through the competitive bid process. This officially closes the original grant agreement and begins a new grant agreement, also with the possibility of 2 grant renewals. Grant renewals are not automatically offered to grantees. If a participant is enrolled in the initial grant year, and we'll use 2025 as an example, their carryover credit will apply in renewal year 1, which is 2026, or renewal year 2, 2027. If a participant is enrolled in renewal year 1, the carryover credit can only be applied in renewal year 2. If a participant enrolls in renewal year 2, there will be no carryover credit. If a grantee has gone through a new competitive bid process for Illinois Works, any completions or transitions will not carry over into the new grant agreement. While grantees are not eligible for a 3rd grant renewal, grantees can choose to administratively extend their contract for an additional year with the sole purpose of earning carryover credit. During this extension, grantees would be allowed to submit additional documentation to demonstrate completions and transitions earned for participants that were enrolled during the first 3 grant years. No new enrollments will be accepted during this time. Okay. Progressive corrective action. Grantees must adhere to the program expectations and requirements outlined in the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program 2025 Grantee Manual and in the grant agreement. The monthly program review is an enforcement of progressive corrective action, and that is the responsibility of the Illinois Works Grant Manager. Progressive corrective action occurs in phases. As a grantee, you could receive a warning. If a warning is received, a corrective action plan is required. A warning is a formal notification that expectations have not been met. It is issued if a grantee has not made enough progress for a required outcome for 2 consecutive months with the status of inadequate progress, which would be a 50% through 75% compliance rating, or poor progress, in which case your compliance rating would be under 50%. You could be placed on the watch list. In that case, a corrective action plan is required. The watch list is designed to identify and assist non-compliant grantees to improve performance and participant outcomes. It is issued if a grantee has not made enough progress for a required outcome for 3 consecutive months with the status of inadequate progress or poor progress. And last, a grantee could be placed on probation. And probation is designed to actively monitor programs that fail to meet compliance with required program activities, performance benchmarks, and/or fiscal or administrative rules. Failure to address the outlined expectations are stated in the grantee's agreement within 3 months after being placed on probation. The program may be subject to decreased funding or closing of the agreement and may not qualify for additional Illinois Works funding in the future. So last but not least, the way we are going to make sure that that does not happen, we hold quarterly administrative meetings. These meetings are designed for the Office of Illinois Works to present on grantee network progress, upcoming changes to programming, reporting, or important deadlines. This is also a time when the program administrators are encouraged to ask questions, to make comments, and offer ideas on how to enhance the program. 4 meetings are scheduled throughout the year, and the program administrators are required to attend them all. For 2 of the meetings, the attendance is required in person, taking place generally at the regional meeting, and the other at the annual conference. The other meetings will be attended virtually. Are there any questions before we move on to the last section for today?
There are no questions in the chat.
Fantastic. In that case, I will hand the mic to Dan, who's going to go through the last section for us.
All right, thank you very much, Monica. So I'll be bringing us home with the audit requirements that are discussed in section 14 of the Grantee Manual. Through this section, we'll be able to articulate GATA rules and requirements, 2 CFR 200, and the Illinois Administrative Code, articulate audit types, explain audit submission requirements, and really we're going to share with you a lot of information on where to go for additional information. So again, this is section 14 of the Grantee Manual. So the state of Illinois requires that all grantees comply with federal audit requirements. This section will be an overview of the types of entities that are required to submit audits. For information regarding audit requirements and compliance, there is an audit report review process manual that you can access. A link to that manual is being provided in the chat. You can also reach out to your grant manager and they will be able to direct you to the appropriate resources. You are also welcome to contact the help desk at the Department of Commerce of Economic Opportunity. That email address is ceo.granthelp@illinois.gov. Again, that's not the Office of Illinois Works group, but it's all part of DCEO. In addition, questions can be submitted through an online form located on the Grant Opportunities page of the DCEO website, which is, also part of their grant trainings website. So you're welcome to, go to that website, submit online questions. They have an email address where you can send questions directly to the Grant Help group. They also have where you can register for live trainings. I think they do about one every other month on running the grant at the state level. Usually it's at the end of the year that they do one specifically on audits, but they also have a library where you can view last year's. So I would suggest that you view those trainings, especially the audit one now, so that you know what's going to be required of you, because it is, it is very detailed, and a lot of organizations wind up going on the Illinois Stop Payment list due to non-compliance with audits. So this topic is extremely important. Not all grantees will be required to submit audits. Audit requirements are based on the amount and type of funding that a grantee receives, both state, federal, and that can be federal direct or federal pass-through for grants, as well as other requirements. So looking at some of those requirements, and I do believe that this slide is a little bit outdated. I believe the federal fund amounts have increased to $1 million, but we will get verification of that for you. Again, going to the DCEO grant training site, they will have the most up-to-date information on that. But essentially, if an organization expends more than $1 million during the grantee's fiscal year in federal awards, the Office of Illinois Works, the pre-apprenticeship program is not a federal award, but based on that criteria, then the grantee must have a single audit conducted in accordance with 2 CFR 200.514. Grantees meeting certain requirements may elect to have a program-specific audit conducted in accordance with 2 CFR 200.507 with the approval of DCEO. A grantee that expends less than the $1 million during the grantee's fiscal year in federal awards would then look at, well, what are they spending on state awards in combination with those federal awards. So grantees who expend $500,000 or more during the grantee's fiscal year on state awards would not be subject to the single audit, but they must have a financial statement audit conducted in accordance with GAGAS rules. So that's the Generally Accepted Government Auditing Standards, GAGAS. Grantees who do not meet those requirements, but do spend between $300,000 and $500,000 in state-issued awards must have a financial statement audit conducted in accordance with the Generally Accepted Auditing Standards. So that's GAAS. So we have GAGAS and we have GAAS. Then finally, grantees who do not meet the requirements in subsections A or B, but have audits conducted voluntarily or based on other regulatory requirements must submit those audits for review. And it is submitted through the GATA audit report review process. So again, the information that we gave you going to the DCO grant help website with the training videos that they have and the libraries they have will be extremely important for you to understand the information that I just shared. So for grantees that are not required to complete an audit because they did not meet any of the previous criteria, they still must submit the following documents. They must submit a consolidated year-end financial report that is due 30 days after completion of that report. That report is due no later than 6 months after the end of the grantee's fiscal year. Non-compliance with any of these audit standards, as I just mentioned, result in the implementation of what's called the Grantee Compliance Enforcement System, and essentially causes grantees to go on our stop payment list. We cannot execute new agreements. We cannot reimburse any funds that were, properly reported. So it's extremely important to stay in compliance with those. Regarding the audit submission, the single audit reporting package is due 30 days after the audit report completion, but no later than 9 months after the grantee's fiscal year ends. The financial statement audit reporting packages, including the GAGAS, GAS, and others, are due 30 days after the report completion, but no later than 6 months after the end of the grantee's fiscal year end. So again, going to that GATA audit report review process manual, we had placed the link in the chat already. We'll provide you with all of the details, in writing regarding these audits. And for additional audit information, we're going to provide you with a bunch of information. You can go to the GATA resource library. You can go to 2 CFR 200 subpart F audit requirements from the federal government, or you can go to the Illinois Administrative Code audit requirements section. So like I said, a lot of links, a lot of resources for you. It's really meant for your organization to be able to review that throughout the year so that you know what's going to be expected as your fiscal year ends. So any questions before I hand it back over to Carlita for our last Mentimeter?
There are no questions in the chat, Dan.
Perfect. All right, Carlita, I'll hand it back over to you, and everyone can jump back into Mentimeter.
All right, thank you, Dan. So we will begin our evaluation by having you give us some feedback. The first question is, please share your views on this training by rating the following statements, 1 being the lowest to 10 being the highest. To what extent did it meet your expectations? How likely are you to attend a similar event in the future? And how likely are you to recommend this training to others? Okay, I think we have some responses coming in. Very good. Thank you for your responses. It looks like we've gotten a lot out of this particular training session. Thank you for sharing. Okay, and we will move on to our next question. The course was relevant to what I wanted to learn about this subject matter, ranging from strongly disagree to strongly agree. Okay, we're looking at somewhat agree, strongly agree, leading the pack, back and forth. I'll slow down and let this settle in. Okay, it looks like somewhat to strongly agree, and then we have a few that may want to learn some more different things, and one strongly disagree. Let's move on to our next question. I plan to apply what I learned. There was so much information here in today's presentation, and a lot for us to take in and apply it to our operations for the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program. And it looks like we're getting good results here. Majority of you have decided that it is worth applying what you've learned today with strongly agree. Thank you for sharing. Our next question asks, what improvements might you recommend? Here is an area where we really do want your feedback. And I noticed that there were some evaluations that said strongly disagree or disagreed or neither or. Those are the areas where we really want to hear from you. So if you have any recommendations, please submit them in your portal. Here's a response, having the grant manual available to reference. Are there any other responses? Of course, having the grant manual available to refer to. Okay, I think I see a theme here. All right, make this event shorter. We started at 9:30, but did not get into any new information until 10 o'clock. Half of our wasted time doing introductions does not do anyone any good. Make the grant manual available. I know you've heard this a million times, but we need the manual. More examples about total reimbursement amount versus reimbursement expenses. Hoping for a book of the grant manual. The manual should be available for this session. Thank you all for your transparency and your honesty about what really matters to you at this time. I like the example that Dan provided to help us understand. Can Monica provide some examples as well? There has been a tremendous number of updates. This training was very useful. Thank you for your feedback. All right, let's take our next question. And what did you find effective? If we make any changes, what would you recommend we keep? I'll give folks a few minutes to collect their thoughts and transcribe their responses. And if you don't have anything you want to share at this time, you can just add no comment or NA, non-applicable, just to let us know you're responding to the question that we've asked. All right, doesn't look like we have any responses so far. NA, thank you for your response. Okay, looks like we are moving forward. Here we go. Longer break, please. 5 minutes is not even close to the time to use and get water. Okay, thank you for that. Have as many clear examples as possible, maybe a sample of what's wrong with this, so we can learn what not to do. Someone says change everything. The images were helpful as far as explaining the monthly reports. Very good examples. Thank you. Are there any other responses? All right, I'll give you a few more seconds to compile your thoughts. There we go. The communication with the grant manager has been very effective, supports the outcome of grant outcomes. I found it all effective for the program. Thank you. More examples of data entry. What does bad data even look like? That's a really good question. Any other feedback? I found break time was too short. I found it all effective for the program. NA, thank you. Any last responses? Longer breaks, at least 15 minutes, please. Okay. Well, it looks like we've completed this particular question. Is there anything else about this course you think we should know? And so those of you who had some really honest opinions about what you learned today, here's an opportunity for you to really share with us what would make it better for you so that we are making good use of your time and giving you the quality information that you need to have a successful program. I'll give a few more seconds here to give people a chance to put their answers in. And again, if you don't have any comments, you can just say no, not applicable, NA. All right, thank you for those responses. I think you've done a good job with being transparent with us. For example, you've shared with us a lot of common mistakes that people have made in the past. Thank you. Sitting for 3 hours with 5 minute breaks is unproductive. Any other feedback? Thank you for that. Full disclosure, getting training or education on book that is not yet released is 10,000% crazy. Okay. Thank you for your feedback. Again, I'm excited for the upcoming grant. You have been transparent in this training. Thank you for that. Are there any final comments you'd like to share? Okay. Well, we want to thank you for spending time with us this evening, or this afternoon, I should say. And we want to give you back your day and have a great day and the rest of your week. Bye-bye, everyone.